Sleep Hacking with London Rio, brought to you by Bulletproof. Learn how to hack your sleep.
With you, and it's almost it's a quiet time, it's a meditative time, but you guys are sharing quite a moment together, and they're not with their camp, who they've been spending probably 24/7 with for the last how many days, and it must be a kind of a weird cathartic, I don't know, spiritual moment.
It is. It is really a spiritual moment. I think I've never heard that statement before, but I think you're right on point on saying that. And because, when I get in there to start rapping, and you're right, these guys are with their camps 7-8 weeks and all that. But when I get in there, it's just me and that fighter. And it's one-on-one, and I've had fighters cry when I'm wrapping their hands because I know that anxiety is in them, and my job is to take that away from them and give them that point of confidence, and it's like, outside of being a good cutman and wrapping hands and working cuts, psychology is a big issue, and I'm very good at that, and I know when Miesha Tate fought Ronda Rousey, Brian Calloway, they had another guy wrapping Misha's hands, but they wanted me to wrap them. And he comes up to me and says, Stitch, look, the reason I want you to wrap her hands is because that psychology that you give her right before she goes out. And the way I look at it, Brian, is if I could give you 1 ounce of confidence, that 1 ounce might be the 1 ounce it takes for you to go out there and win a fight. And so I feel very treasured in having those moments with these fighters.
What do you say to someone when they're crying like that? I mean, I'm sure you have a very gentle hand, and I'm sure you're a man of few words, but the right words.
Yeah.
What do you do, or is it sometimes just a touch?
Yeah, it's both. It's and this one fighter specific. He just literally, I'm starting to wrap his hands, and I could kind of feel the tension in him, and then he just starts crying like a baby, and I just sat back, and they didn't go through that moment. And then that's where that touch came in. I said, well, you know what? Don't worry about it, brother. I'm here to take care of you, man, and let's get this done. He ended up winning the fight.
And that's the thing, the margins are so thin at this level that it's just the psychological edge can make such a big difference on these fights. I mean, you look at the Vegas odds, it might say plus or minus 300, but anyone who's watched the UFC, we know it's just down to who pushes it a little bit more. It could be a matter of a few seconds who wins that fight, right?
It's a matter of seconds, and that's it, man, and inches, and that's it. And it's that psychological thing, and it isn't very important, and I know Carol Parisian, when he fought Drew Fickett, this was at the Marine base years ago, he ended up with a big old gash right on his cheek, and the referee called the timeout, and they bring the doctor in, but Carol's looking at the big screen, and he goes like this, and the gash just opens up, and he freaks out. I remember that, yeah. Yeah, he starts freaking out, and Manny Gambarian and Neil were their coaches, and I didn't know who Manny was at that time, but these two guys went into shell shock. They didn't know what to do. Carol wants to stop the fight. Manny and Neil don't know what to do, and my job's not to give instructions. But I knew at this point that it wouldn't have been fair for Carol for these guys to have stopped the fight because, these guys weren't very, very experienced. I took it upon myself. I told Carol, I said, look, man, don't worry about the cut. I'm going to have that taken care of. You just go out there and you just fight him in a stand-up position. And he did. He ended up winning the fight. But the side note to that is a couple fights later, we're at the MGM, and I'm walking by, and Carol is sitting there with his father. And, I'm traditional Mexican, and Carol and his father are traditional Armenians, and he introduces me. I said, well, how's the cut? So you can see the scar, and he introduces me to his father, and his father says, I want to thank you for taking care of my son. I want to invite you to my house for dinner. And once again, those are those chill moments. And we've never had that opportunity, but that wasn't the point. The point is that he extended himself out to me for taking care of his son. And, those great moments, man.
And that still honors you, those little moments of respect.
Big time.
I guess that's why you're still doing what you do. Because a lot of people, they wouldn't. They would just, it would be another fight, another fighter. A lot of those guys would just see the same face every time.
Yeah. No. It's every fight has a different story, brother. And when you think you've seen it all, you haven't seen it all. And I've always here's what I've wanted to present to the UFC. Maybe you could present it, or maybe the fans could present it. Is the fans have to see what we do backstage. But there's so many contests that the UFC has for the fan clubs or whatever. But maybe they ought to have a Cutman of the Night, where whoever wins the contest gets to hang out with me and goes into the dressing room and see these moments of me wrapping these guys' hands, sit next to me at ringside and see what goes on between the relationship of me and the trainers and the fighter and the referees and the doctors. Those are very special moments, and those are stories that go untold, but I think they're very important in the game.
This week on London Real, we have astrophysicist Neil deGrasse Tyson.
I wake up every morning astonished that an astrophysicist can have 1.7 million Twitter followers. The cosmos is anything where it's a frontier of human knowledge of how the world works. There's so many forces that want to deny a scientific truth just because it conflicts with their ideology. I thought of myself, because I could wrestle, as sort of a defender of geeks. There is no teacher in any time in my life, from kindergarten through 12th grade and beyond, who ever would have said, he'll go far. And the act of finding out is the lesson, not the lesson itself.
On Sunday, London Real presents Neil deGrasse Tyson, Cosmos.
I'm happy to report that there's an appetite for the cosmos out there.